Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the last day of this financial year, but the last day before the end of financial year, meaning 29th, one more day to go, 30th June, and the end of our financial reporting and things on this side of the world. And for companies that do that, the end of financial year being the 30th of June. And that will be tomorrow. So I know, auditors, accountants, and bookkeepers, and stock takers, everyone would be very, very busy right now trying to, in readiness for that event. Well, right now, welcome to this late edition today. Of course, there was a community funeral and other things that needed to be attended to this morning, and hence we have the late edition. Well, right now, as we talked about New South Wales and what is going to happen there with that industrial action.
Fed up and walking off the job for the third time this year. Some nurses and midwives across the state stopping work and speaking up.
We're not going to take what they've offered us. It's not enough.
We just need the government to listen. You can't tell us that we're playing with politics, because we're not. We're playing with people's lives here.
Hundreds met in Sydney, dissatisfied with last week's budget.
We'll consider what next industrial action is necessary to sustain the fight.
The discontent is felt by unions across the board. The rail union is taking industrial action too. Train delays took commuters to the brink.
I'm going to ask for work from home. I can't just take it anymore.
Trains ran slow, reducing peak hour services by up to half.
It was cancelled, so I've driven down here, had to run, missed the train by a minute.
Disruptions will escalate by the end of the week. On Friday, only about 25% of services will run.
I think everything is upside down. It's in chaos. There's no leadership.
At issue is the new fleet of intercity trains, meant to run years ago. The union wants modifications to improve visibility from the train to the platform to ensure passenger safety.
I believe that the position of the union is unreasonable when you have a safety regulator, the National Safety Regulator, that has come out and said that those trains are safe and able to be operated.
Just last month, it looked as though the state government and the rail union were close to reaching an agreement on modifications. Now they're further apart. The rail union will hold talks tomorrow ahead of a meeting with transport officials on Thursday. Tim Swanston, ABC.
And so looking at that, the argument there, and looking at that case that they have put forward, what do you think? Do you think it's fair? There are so many people who are going to work doing about what they do diligently, and of course everyone has a right to demand fair pay and things like that. But in our industrial actions like that, it's like threatening. It's the what do you call that? It's like exhaustion. And as the Premier there mentioned, that when you have a safety regulator, where does the union come in with their demands on the thing as well? Of course, passenger safety, the safety of the train operators and everyone is always paramount. But there has to be a just argument for, an unjust cause. But, everything... There are ways and means of taking your argument forward, but industrial actions, especially when it affects other people, innocent people who have had nothing to do with it, but they rely on this kind of infrastructure, this kind of security, and then they are being put at risk. Well, right now, let's move on. Of course, it's still remaining in Sydney. We have always had this problem there, the bikie gang. So the former bikie gang is sought in Sydney car park. Here's that report.
An underworld figure gunned down in an underground car park. In blood-stained bandages, Yusuf Nazioglu is wheeled into an ambulance outside his apartment building next to Rhodes Central Shopping Centre.
We were just walking as usual to get a coffee, and then all these police cars just came running by and they were like, you need to go back the other way.
Just 5 months ago, the former bikie married the love of his life. She was with him when he got out of his car and came face to face with a masked gunman.
That person fired a number of shots
The 40-year-old was shot in the chest and head and died in hospital. Officers flooded the car park in search of a killer. But with no one in sight, they found the getaway car on fire in a nearby car park.
We do believe that the shooting last night was targeted.
Nazli Oglu was an associate of Comanchero, Tarek Zahed, who survived a shooting at an Auburn gym last month. His brother Omar was not so lucky. There have been 14 deadly shootings linked to Sydney's gang war in less than 2 years. Detectives don't believe the shooting is linked to the ongoing feud between the Hamzi and Alameddine crime networks, so they're turning their attention to the old enemies Yusuf Naglioglu made during his time as a lone wolf bikie. 2 years ago, he was cleared of the execution-style murder of Comanchero boss Mick Howie outside a Rockdale gym. But underworld sources say Nazli Oglu knew there was a target on his back, but continued living his life as normal. A fatal decision. Mark Reddy, ABC News, Sydney.
A fatal decision indeed. So do you live in fear or do you live your life? But of course, if you have a past and if you are involved with things like that, you always have a target on your back. Well, the other area in which there is tighter control that is needed is the buy now, pay later schemes that have all sprung up.
Mel Theobald is one of millions of Australians who use buy now, pay later services. The single mum relies on Zip and Afterpay to juggle her budget.
Would you like some oranges? Zip Pay, I have used it in the past to purchase a washing machine. Afterpay, I was using it for groceries, just birthday presents, little things like that.
Buy now, pay later is essentially digital lay-by on your phone, but you get to take the item home straight away and pay the debt back in fixed instalments.
So I'm opening up my Afterpay app. I'm owing $138.35, so I'm doing pretty good at the moment.
Mel didn't have a job when she signed up. Zip did a credit check and instantly approved $500 in credit. Afterpay didn't do a credit check, but also gave her $500. Both soon increased her credit limit to a combined $5,000 a month.
Doesn't make sense to me because I don't know how you can pay back that much per fortnight.
It's the biggest revolution in payment systems since Australia's cash economy was upended by the arrival of credit cards in 1974.
It's a little card that brings you instant cash.
Our rejection rate is around about 25%, and if we're not certain about an applicant's background, well, we just won't issue a card.
But credit cards are now firmly on the out, and buy now, pay later providers have no such qualms about background checks.
It's definitely dangerous, especially if you're already finding it difficult to pay bills and then people think it's an extra money. They don't realise that it's actually credit and it's not regulated.
National Debt Helpline, Consumer Action. Shay speaking.
Shay Robbins is a financial counsellor.
I would definitely speak to at least a couple of people a day who have those services, the buy now, pay later, because it's so easy. It's easy credit.
Signing up to the biggest player, Afterpay, couldn't be easier. I've downloaded the app, plugged in a few of my details, but without any credit check, I have $600 ready to spend. And that's exactly what has the new government so worried.
I don't want to have an argument about whether there should be a minimum standard of consumer protections, and that is that there are background creditworthiness checks and that these products aren't taking vulnerable consumers for granted.
730's been given exclusive access to industry data that reveals Australians spent nearly $12 billion through buy now, pay later last financial year. Clothing and shoes are far and away the most popular purchases.
We're very conscious of providing our services in a responsible way and only providing amounts or limits that customers can reasonably afford.
Everywhere you look now, online, in shops, at the pub, you can use buy now, pay later.
So you are purchasing stuff that you don't need with the money that you don't have.
The data says 18% of buy now, pay later users have missed a repayment. And that's when it can get expensive with extra fees. 1 in 14 said they'd had to cut back on essentials to make their repayments.
They are a form of credit. They're competing directly with credit cards and they need to be regulated as a credit product.
The industry's set up a voluntary code with 8 major players signing up. That'll be the basis for the new legislation.
But we wouldn't stop there. We'd ensure that we filled in any of the gaps that were identified by consumer groups or others.
That means compulsory credit checks and rules to protect vulnerable consumers.
People don't realise until they've actually got it that they're going to get themselves into more debt.
What the industry doesn't want is the same regulation as credit cards.
I think what we would seek is simple regulation that fits our products. So our products are for very low dollar values, they're repaid very, very quickly, and there's no interest or huge penalties for consumers.
Across every other credit product, it's important that you have at least 2 tests, the fact that the product is appropriate for a particular market group, and secondly, that it's affordable for them to use, and I think that's appropriate in the BNPL sector as well.
The Finance Minister has promised to introduce legislation within a year, which puts Apple right in the crosshairs.
So, we're thrilled to announce Apple Pay Later.
The tech giant is launching its own service in the US later this year, which could expand to Australia.
4 equal payments, spread over 6 weeks, with 0 interest and no fees of any kind.
If Apple is offering this product at no additional cost, then they are likely to take significant share away from the likes of Afterpay and Zip.
Afterpay and Zip are already contending with a share price in freefall. They say they're not worried about extra competition.
Increasing competition certainly is validation of the success of the business model.
After using Buy Now, Pay Later for a few years, Mel Theobald's decided to quit. She wants to apply for a bank loan to buy a new car. When the rubber hits the road, traditional lenders still win out.
So I finally found employment. I start next week and my car is not going to be with us for much longer. So for me to get a loan, I need to show that I'm responsible.
Responsibility lies with whom? So, well, of course, there are these products which are coming out, 6 payments spread out, no interest, no application fee. Well, how do they make their money? What's the catch? Because why would anyone else or anyone in that right frame of mind do that or offer a product such as that is not making their money? Well, right now it's time to go to Northern Territory where we're looking at this cracker of a news.
It's a day for celebration that sets the territory alight.
The fabulous weather we're experiencing at the moment, it's on a Friday, so I'm sure people will be planning to gear up and have a great Territory Day barbecue and shoot some crackers.
Territory Day preparations are in full swing, with fireworks wholesalers and retailers stocking up for Friday.
We have, quite a lot of new bits and pieces. Some new helicopters, some new parachutes and some new assortments. The Bad Boy Big Pack's back and some other colourful name pieces as well.
240 tonnes of fireworks were sold last year, with 229 tonnes estimated to be available this year. Lockdowns in China impacting some of the supply.
There's a bit of a stock issue, it's a little bit short, so we're pretty confident it'll sell out.
The celebration is back to its original date, after last year's was delayed because of COVID, and 2020 scrapped altogether. While it's a day for festivities, it's not without its risks.
With 3 infringement notices issued last year and accidents commonplace, authorities are urging people this year to enjoy responsibly.
Make sure you have a couple of buckets of water and a hose next to you. Clear up any mulch and etc. around the place. Make sure your fireworks are stable.
Please be sensible. It is a day that is a privilege and we don't want to have advice from fire authorities and police and other emergency workers that we have gone too far.
Fireworks will be on sale from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Friday. Nibir Khan, ABC News.
Once again, cracker of a news, as I meant, I love those names. Nuclear Havoc, Bad Boys, Dynamite. Wow, what great names they have come up. Well, of course, still in Northern Territory, that case of rape and the police officers still goes ahead.
According to his lawyers, Patrick Carson could have been on the cusp of an affair but did not sexually assault a young woman he befriended in 2020. As the almost 2-week trial of the Northern Territory police officer nears its end, Mr Carson's barrister today made her final address to the jury, urging them to find the police officer not guilty and telling the court the complainant had all the hallmarks of the most unreliable witness. Mr Carson is accused of twice raping a young woman he had befriended and exchanged hundreds of messages with throughout 2020. Prosecutors argue the messages are a chronicle of his grooming the young woman, making her feel special before allegedly assaulting her twice. But in her closing address to jurors, defence barrister Mary Chalmers SC referred to a text message sent to a friend by the complainant on the afternoon of the first alleged incident. She said it read, "We really nearly stuffed things up." Ms Chalmers told the court the message was not an account of someone who had been raped, instead indicated the pair may have been on the cusp of an affair. She told jurors it was not their job to sit in moral judgment of other people's relationships, but to determine if the evidence presented by the Crown was reliable enough to meet the standard of proof. It's very easy for a young woman like the complainant to make an allegation against a married man when there's only 2 of them there on the occasion in question, she said. It's very easy for her to make that allegation and very hard to disprove. Mr Carson's barrister labelled the alleged victim a liar. He's pleaded not guilty to both charges. Justice Stephen Southwood delivered his summary of the case to jurors this afternoon. They'll return tomorrow to begin deliberating on their verdict. Melissa McKay, ABC News.
And we have seen quite a few cases like that it is very easy to, make those allegations if you are in that kind of situation, and it is very hard to disprove. So, and we have seen many cases coming forward where, it had been found that someone had just taken advantage of the situation and said, all right, everyone's doing this, let's go and make this allegation as well. Many have been overturned. We will eagerly await the result of this once that verdict is handed down. But ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our daily India report. But don't forget at 2 p.m. we have the weekly real estate update coming up with Usha Chandra right here on this channel.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and much more on India and the Indian diaspora. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds talks with the European Commission President in Germany.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on June 27th met the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and the 2 leaders reviewed the India-EU cooperation in trade, investment, technology and climate action. Modi met von der Leyen on the sidelines of G7 summit at Schloss-Ilmenau, the picturesque venue of the summit in southern Germany. Modi said that he had an outstanding meeting with the European Commission President. During their talks, Prime Minister Modi and the EU Commission President welcomed the resumption of negotiations on the trade, investment and geographical indication agreements, Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said. This was the second meeting in 2 months after the EU President visited New Delhi in April, her first visit to India as the President of the European Commission. In April, Modi and von der Leyen announced the setting up of an India-EU Trade and Technology Council, a high-level strategic mechanism to tackle key trade, economic and technological challenges.
Opposition Indian presidential candidate Yashwant Sinha filed his nomination papers on June 27th.
The opposition presidential candidate Yashwant Sinha filed his nomination papers at the Parliament House in New Delhi on June 27th. He was flanked by Congress leader Rahul Gandhi and National Congress Party Supremo Sharad Pawar. Besides Congress's Mallikarjun Kharge and Jairam Ramesh accompanied him for the filing of the nomination. Samajwadi Party's Akhilesh Yadav and RLD chief Jayant Chaudhary were also present. Telangana Rashtra Samiti's working president and minister K.T. Rama Rao also attended the nomination program. Along with Rama Rao, son of Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao, also known as KCR, and some of the TRS MPs were also present. Parties supporting Sinha's candidature include TMC, Congress, CPI, Shiv Sena, NCP, SP, DMK, RJD, NC, AIUDF, NCP, RLD, PDP and AIMIM. Former Union Minister Yashwant Sinha was chosen as a consensus candidate from the joint opposition for the upcoming presidential elections, which will take place on July 18, 2022.
Sri Lanka runs out of fuel. Only essential services to operate till July 10th.
Sri Lanka, hit by a massive economic crisis, has run out of fuel and the only essential services will operate starting midnight. The list of essential services will include health, law and order, ports, airport, food distribution and agriculture. All non-essential services have been suspended till July 10th and the existing fuel reserves have been reserved for the essential services. The government has also introduced a token system to distribute the fuel. Schools will remain shut and the employees of private offices have been asked to work from home. Government officials have been told to opt for work from home. This is the first time the island nation of 22 million people has run out of fuel. Since the beginning of this year, the price of fuel has jumped fivefold. The last price hike took place on June 26th. The price of diesel is retailing at 460 Lankan rupees and petrol retails at 550 per litre. There is no clarity on the new shipments of oil, the Sri Lankan Energy Minister has said, and urged citizens not to queue up at the fuel stations. A shipment was supposed to arrive on June 27th, but suppliers have expressed their inability to deliver, citing non-commitment of payments and logistic issues. No further shipments have been scheduled as the country has run out of dollars. Sources said Lankan ministers will travel to Russia and Qatar to discuss more fuel for the country in the coming days. The International Monetary Fund is in Sri Lanka for talks on a possible bailout package. Sri Lanka has been reeling under its biggest economic crisis since its independence in 1948 and has been unable to finance the import of food, medicines or fuel since late last year.
All set for resumption of Amarnath Yatra after 3-year suspension.
Sri Amarnath Shrine Board is pulling out all stops to ensure a smooth pilgrimage scheduled to begin on June 30th to the Holy Cave Shrine housing the naturally formed ice lingam in South Kashmir Himalayas. The Jammu and Kashmir administration is also augmenting the efforts of the Shrine Board by providing foolproof security cover along both the Pahalgam and Baltal routes to the Holy Cave, a senior official said. While the board is making arrangements for the pilgrims intending to undertake the journey, it has also made a provision of an online darshan for those who cannot physically undertake the yatra. For the devotees who cannot come for yatra, they can avail the facility of online darshan, puja, havan and prasad. At Baltal Base Camp, a 70-bed fully equipped DRDO hospital has been set up for quality healthcare services to the pilgrims. The hospital, funded by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, will have X-ray and ultrasound facilities, general and oxygenated wards, OPD, ICU, pharmacy and a laboratory. The Health Department of the Union Territory also has made special arrangements for providing healthcare facilities to the pilgrims. They have stationed 109 basic life support ambulances and 26 advanced life support critical care ambulances at 55 locations on route Baltal and Chandanwari routes from Kazigand for the pilgrims.
US Embassy opens student visa appointments for mid-August campus dates.
The United States Embassy in India has said that visa appointments are available on its website for students who need to be on campus by mid-August. Interviews for F, M and J visas would take place on August 14, the embassy tweeted. The move comes after the government, in a rare move, urged senior diplomats of the US, the UK, Australia and some other countries to expedite the student visas after it got several letters and complaints about the visa process taking too long. The US Embassy in May had sought to assure students that if they were unable to book an appointment, it would open slots for the rest of July and early August. Student visa interviews opened earlier this year, as officials hope to issue a larger number compared to 62,000 given out in 2021 for the fall term. In 2021, the US embassies and consulates in India opened student visa interviews on June 14 due to COVID-19 pandemic. After most students received their I-20s, it added. The I-20 is a mandatory document issued by a US government-approved educational institution certifying that a student has been admitted to a full-term program and has sufficient funds to stay in US. It allows a student to apply for US visa.
G7's ban on Russian gold may hit India.
World powers on June 26 agreed to ban gold imports from Russia at a G7 meeting in the Bavarian Alps that will be dominated by war in Ukraine and its impact on food and energy supplies across the globe. Britain, US, Canada, Japan will ban Russian gold imports as a part of efforts to tighten the sanctions squeeze on Moscow. Experts said that ban will impact India, the world's second largest consumer of gold. Experts are of the opinion that it would lead to an increase in premium over and above the usual price for India also. Alternatively, the Russian bars may be made available for supply through smugglers to India. Russia's annual gold production is 350 to 380 tons. Some experts believe that the newly mined gold in essence will not be available for the rest of the world through trading hubs like the UK and Switzerland. This will eventually lead Russia to look at supplying to markets that accept it. As it creates a supply shortfall, it will keep the premium high in markets like Turkey and China.
Rupee hits record low of 78.59 against US dollar in early trade.
The Indian rupee depreciated 22 paise to a record low of 78.59 against the US dollar in opening trade on June 28th as persistent foreign funds outflows weighed on investor sentiments. At the interbank foreign exchange, the rupee opened on a weak note at 78.53 against the American dollar, then lost ground to quote at 78.59, its all-time low level, registering a fall of 22 paise from the last close. On June 27, the rupee declined by 4 paise to close at its lifetime low of 78.37 against the US dollar. According to the experts, further economic sanctions on Russia may drive global energy prices higher and put pressure on emerging market currencies. Global oil benchmark Brent crude futures rose 1.20% to USD 116.47 per barrel. Meanwhile, the dollar index, which gauges the greenback's strength against a basket of 6 currencies, was trading 0.01% lower at 103.92. On the domestic equity market front, the 30-share Sensex was trading 314.88 points or 0.59% lower at 52,846.40. While the broader NSE Nifty declined 101.75 points or 0.64% to 15,730.30.
Ranbir Kapoor and Sanjay Dutt starrer Shamshera trailer is out.
Indian dirt only Indian hand can clean. White hand get black, sir. अब शुद्ध सिंह इनकी सफाई करेगा. शुद्ध होने का वक्त आ गया है दरोगा साहब.
The trailer of Ranbir Kapoor and Sanjay Dutt starrer Shamshera has been released on YouTube. The film is all set to release in Hindi, Tamil and Telugu on July 22nd in theatres. The teaser of the film was released on June 22nd by Yash Raj Films. The almost 3-minute-long trailer begins with a voiceover saying, "This is the story of the one who said, enslavement is a curse and freedom is not handed to you. You have to win it. This is the story of Shamshera." The trailer then progresses to show the entry of Ranbir Kapoor's character with troops. Soon after the trailer came in, netizens shared their excitement. While some absolutely backed Ranbir as the perfect choice for the titular role of Shamshera, others were skeptical about the ending of the trailer itself and pointed out that it told too much.
कर्म से डकैत, धर्म से आजाद.
That's all in today's bulletin.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in this late edition of the Daily News Update, together with the Daily India Report. And thanks, Anubhuti, for that wonderful report. Well, right now, it's time to get to know what our functions and events are happening. And then later on, we will also look at the weekly real estate with Usha Chandra that's coming up next. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, the late edition of our daily news report. Until our next show, which will be the weekly real estate update with Usa Chandra, it's goodbye from me.